UN Brief. Today we interviewed UNICEF Sean Blaschke. He is in charge of the DICE program, the Digital Health Center of Excellence, which is co-founded by WHO, the World Health Organization, and UNICEF. Thank you for watching the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe.
And what we saw was that a lot of these digital tools come in and they were being pushed from companies, used inappropriate technologies, and in many cases seek to displace or replace existing digital systems. And so there was a lot of very real concern that if not thought out properly, that a lot of these kind of pandemic, epidemic related interventions could actually weaken and further fragment national systems. It needs to be done in a very thoughtful way. It needs to take into context a country's digital maturity, the enabling environment, and the existing systems. And quite often it didn't. And this is a larger issue that we've been struggling with across the board. You go to Malawi, you go to Tanzania, and there are 80, 100, 120 different digital health or mHealth programs. You go to Madagascar. Madagascar has 7 digital HMIS system, which is absolutely crazy. There's again should not be happening. When COVID started to really become a global pandemic, the donors got together again and said, look, how can we do things differently this time? We had an opportunity in West Africa with Ebola, and some great things came out of it. But I think there was a general feeling that we didn't fully capitalize on this opportunity to really leave behind stronger, more resilient health systems, and that with the resources and money coming in for COVID response, COVID recovery, this was a once in a generation opportunity to effectively use these resources and strengthen everything from a country's integrated disease surveillance and response to their health management information system capacity across the board. And so around actually, I would say February or so of last year, we set up a digital health donor coordination group. So this was co-chaired by UNICEF and the Gates Foundation. Many donors quickly got on board, and we use this as a weekly forum to better share, to better kind of coordinate our activities. And many donors started to say, can you set up a mechanism, because this is great what we're doing in these calls, but it hasn't yet filtered through or cascaded through our respective agencies. We need to do more. Gates Foundation and GIZ said, look, we'll each put $1 million on the table. Can you set up this mechanism? And discussing with WHO had just launched their new, they had completely restructured, launched a Department of Digital Health. UNICEF and actually WHO had just signed a global MOU between Dr. Tedros and ED4, essentially describing the DICE mechanism and saying, we pledge as UN agencies to collaborate together to improve coordination, strengthen our technical capacity around digital health, so this gave us a framework to establish this Digital Health Center of Excellence, or DICE. It was launched in late April of last year. And so the idea the
formalization of DICE just came about a year ago.
Yeah. Now, given we're UN agencies, we're still building up the structure. It's taken a lot of time. Right. I only started my position in February.
Oh, I see.
So
tell us a little bit. Now you're based in Nairobi,
yeah,
but you are coming to Geneva often, I imagine, in order to...
I was in Geneva last week. We're trying to use Zoom as much as possible. Mm-hmm. What we're actually probably going to be doing more of is joint missions to our regional offices.
I see.
WHO and UNICEF. We're very much a structure-based organizations. And the real results happen at country level. And so we really want to put our resources in strengthening regional capabilities, because that's where we see greater impact across our respective organizations.
Yes, indeed, it makes sense to be in the country to really check what's happening, meet
Mhm.
people in charge of
Yep.
national health systems. That's the way to go, right? And of
Yeah,
course,
indeed.
UNICEF and WHO have already a capillarity, right? You have already
Mhm.
offices in the countries and so
Yep.
on. So it makes it easier to go together as a team,
E-
right?
Exactly.
So tell us a
Um,
little bit of which countries now so far have you started working, or are you still in the phase of identifying which
uh,
countries will be partners?
Yeah, so maybe first let me start with kind of framing what we do and what we don't do. So again, the idea of DICE was really to support two things. One, improved donor coordination. So with all the funds going through Gavi and Global Fund and World Bank, what we wanted to do was break down those information silos and provide better visibility first on what countries were requesting. And so we've analyzed, we've gone through and mined a couple of hundred proposals to Gavi and Global Fund. And what we've been doing is working with our global counterparts in terms of identifying, okay, USAID, you're taking strengthening HMIS in these 6 countries. Where do you need WHO? Where do you need UNICEF? To again make sure that we're far better aligned and that we have visibility. I would note our DICE consortium has grown very rapidly. We have Gates Foundation, BMZ, Gavi, Global Fund, CDC, World Bank, FCDO, European Union, USAID. I mean, it's really nearly all of the major development partners working in this digital health space. And so, along with the coordination side, and this is again one of the primary roles, we're seconding dedicated DICE consultants to support all of the UNICEF regional offices. And so there will be actually 9 people in our 7 regional offices within a couple of months. We already have we have 3 in place already. And then we're going to be doing the same with WHO, Africa CDC, and a few other kind of key regional bodies. Because again, this TA regional level is where we've identified as having the most impact. The second part, and I think this gets to your question, and this is why I kind of wanted to move in this direction, is around quality assurance and surge capacity to beef up our country and regional teams. And so where there is gaps, funding gaps, capacity gaps, that they have the resources and we're able to help them onboard people to help with this process. Now, DICE is not a funding mechanism. We're largely helping Gavi and Global Fund and World Bank and trying to assist them with ensuring that we have again solid well-designed programs that they're funding. But we really did not envision DICE to be funding the operationalization, OPEX type investments at country level, but rather kind of that kind of surge TA and quality assurance. We've, in terms of support, probably our most
So
successful
you are
example.
funded by the agencies themselves, then
Yeah,
by UNICEF and the WHO. It's
yeah,
funded
and we have funds. I mean,
staff.
we have over $10 million from BMZ through Gavi that supports some field level activities. We have partners like USAID funding, and so we actually brought on a INGO partner, PATH, as kind of our kind of CSO arm, because a lot of the funding available and a lot of the work that we're doing in the digital public good space has been led by a consortium under PATH. They have a kind of sub-organization called Digital Square that has been setting a lot of the I mean, not standards, but have been driving investments for WHO and UNICEF into this space. And so they're kind of the third arm of the WHO UNICEF DICE. But they've also received I think 11 or 12 million from USAID and others who depending on the funding source, maybe can't channel funds directly to UNICEF or WHO, and so they've been absorbing and supporting with those with their and so to your question on what have we done, probably our
which countries, so like you have already, you said that you have 3 people already in place.
Yeah, so you know,
can you talk about it, or you not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The most successful, largest scale initiative that we supported so far is in Jamaica. We established a end-to-end vaccine delivery solution, everything from registration and scheduling to monitoring service delivery, follow-up of vaccines, and now we're finalizing the issuing of vaccine smart certificates. And so this is now going to be the government's national system for all community-led services. And so this is
excellent. So it stays in place even after the
and that's one of the core principles. You know, we're one of the core principles is that we are not going to be supporting siloed COVID-only interventions. They must cater for routine immunization, routine supply chain strengthening, and fit into the country's larger roadmap. You know, this has been something that we've agreed with the donors from day one. You know, and it's been an area that the donors, you know, USAID in particular, said, please work with our country missions. We do not want the funds, you know, the funds that we're providing directly to our missions to be used in ways where, again, this cannot benefit a country after the pandemic is over.
After the pandemic stops.
So I mean, in terms of other countries we're supporting, so as part of the new, so we've been supporting kind of 2 digital readiness type of assessments. The first is something called Map and Match. This looks at the existing software tools being used in a given country and maps them against all the different immunization needs, and basically looks to help guide countries towards better alignment. So in many countries, we see they've got 4 tools being used for case management. And so this is meant to, you know, provoke a discussion around, you know, is this deliberate, or can we actually better align these? But it's also really meant
private sector software that
everything. Public sector, private sector. I mean, we're trying to map everything out, and then, you know, probably even more importantly, help countries see where they may have tools that can be expanded rather than bring something new in. So again, the kind of the general approach is first start with what you have. If there's something that can already do this, don't bring anything new. Second, you know, if you have something but it needs some new functionality, then invest in that, and only look at introducing new solutions if there's nothing else within the country that can deliver on this. Because in most countries, you know, the environments are relatively mature is not the wrong word. There's a lot of tools already deployed, and it's more helping governments be able to make sense of this complex environment. And so we've done this map and match now.
There are changes in the way we could process data too, right? And that is part of the discussion, particularly now in the West, in Europe, in the US. So how do you process data? You know, who owns the data? How is it protected?
Where's it hosted? We're going to be working with the Global Fund. One of the things they want us to do this year is help provide guidance around data governance, alignment with national e-government initiatives, because I think they've been burnt trying to basically procure server after server after server, rather than actually looking at what do governments need to invest in and how can we leverage this. And so we've done this map and match exercise. We're now around 50 or so countries. And so all of this is shared back to government, shared back to partners. We've also supported a number of digital readiness assessments. And so this looks at the WHO building blocks of governance, leadership, financing, human workforce, infrastructure, etc.
Which is probably going to be needed, right? As you deploy all the systems And there is the part of where startup ecosystems in these countries, are they
Mhm.
participating? Do you look into them also to find solutions, to find innovative solutions like we do a lot here in Europe or in the US? Like you have
Absolutely. But what we're
entrepreneurs
trying to do
come
is,
up with some idea, or from this
Mhm.
most simple, like booking an appointment with your doctor online, it's much more
Mhm.
efficient for many reasons, right?
Yeah.
To very complex, of course, health diagnostics issues in
Mhm.
Switzerland, for instance, they are very strong here. So and they of course try to work with the government or the insurance companies, public sector
Mhm. But it can be hard. So,
because, yeah, how do you do that? Are you
Mhm.
going to be able to sort of have this porosity between the private sector entrepreneurs
Yep.
creating solutions and the government?
So let me start with some work that we're doing with WHO this year. Um, the first, so WHO has this new flagship initiative called the Digital Clearinghouse, and the idea of the Digital Clearinghouse is that we don't have target product profiles or clearly articulated minimum requirements for each of these different digital health systems. So you might have an electronic immunization registry, you might have a community health information system, you might have a logistics management information system. And right now, anybody can call anything whatever they want. And so we often run into challenges with both the public and private sector where they'll come and pitch an LMIS, a logistics management information system. And when we start digging, we realize, well, it's actually only part of it. This is not an enterprise level platform. So the digital clearinghouse is going to be doing a couple of things. One is defining that target product profile and minimum requirements, so that private sector, public sector, everybody knows this is what we need to build our solutions for, and government knows, these are the functionalities that we expect out of a system. We should be able to then evaluate, a private sector solution against that. We're also going to be building a automated digital sandbox environment for solutions to be able to test themselves within. And so there's been a lot of effort in the past couple of years around a couple of standards. ICD 11, which was recently launched, FIRE, which is probably the most important health standard at the moment for managing and passing particularly patient level data. And in fact, actually, we're working with Google right now to develop a software development kit so that young entrepreneurs, if they want to develop apps, they'll have Google tools to develop apps that will be compliant with health standards. And so ideally lowering the barrier of entry to entrepreneurs and putting scaffolding in place so that they don't have to be experts in these standards, that the tools they use to build their apps will already take that into consideration. And so the clearinghouse also looks at data protection, cybersecurity. It looks at the ability to operate in low bandwidth environments. And so once this is ready, this is what we hope is going to be a tool that governments use as part of RFP processes, vetting processes, and that the private sector can use to say, well, if we want to be competitive on these tenders, finally we have clear requirements on what government and donors expect us to deliver on, because we don't have that. And donors fund anything that looks good, but don't have a way to actually assess, is this in alignment with WHO clinical guidelines and protocols? Is this, how secure is this system? And so that aligned with a lot of our work at country level. We've been working, for example, WFP has a digital health accelerator. And so working with them to help guide local entrepreneurs on, if don't build things that already exist in the country, really understand, here's where there are gaps. You are far more likely to get scale building a microservice that a platform like DHIS2 could use than trying to compete with a global system, supported by 50 donors. And so I do think there's been a maturity in that thinking as well, where we've seen some private sector companies kind of rejig how they're thinking about the services that they provide and looking to bundle or package them up with more enterprise kind of corporate systems that are getting traction within many countries.
Thank you for watching the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe